Good afternoon, everybody. Long time no see. I figured I would hop on and do a reading update video before I leave for my vacation tomorrow morning. And I'm going to do a haul for you from my travels for the past couple of weeks. The past couple of weeks have been very busy. For 4th of July, I was at a family reunion. The week after that, I was in Meredith, New Hampshire for my mom's Princess Kim play, and Chandler and Sonia met up with us to go see Princess Kim and Always Patsy Cline. And then last weekend, I was in Rhode Island for my cousin Cameron's wedding. And then on the way back from Rhode Island, we went to Mystic, Connecticut to go to the aquarium and the Seaport Museum and eat dinner at Mystic Pizza. So I am here with a haul from the library from the past couple of days that I've gone, and also from my traveling. So let's begin with the reading wrap-up for the past couple of weeks. The first book that I recently finished was The Burnout by Sophie Kinsella. This is by the same author of Confessions of a Shopaholic, who died from cancer in December 2025. So I am very sad that I will no longer be reading any new books from her, but I will be excitedly reading everything that's on her backlist, including the rest of the Confessions of a Shopaholic series. This book is about a girl named Sasha. And I will tell you what it's about. Sasha has had it. She cannot bring herself to respond to another inane, urgent, but obviously not at all urgent email or participate in another corporate employee joyfulness program. She hasn't seen her friends in months. Sex seems like a lot of effort. Even cooking dinner takes too much planning. Sasha has hit a wall. Armed with good intentions to drink kale smoothies, try yoga, and find peace, she heads to the seaside resort she loved as a child. But it's the off-season. The hotel is in a dilapidated shambles, and she has to share the beach with the resort's only other occupant, a grumpy guy named Finn, who seems as stressed as Sasha. How can she commune with nature when she's sitting on her favorite rock watching her? No, nor can they agree on how to best alleviate the burnout. Sasha's manifesting while swimming, Finn drinking whiskey, getting pizza delivered to the beach. When curious messages seemingly addressed to Sasha and Finn begin to appear in the sand, the two are forced to talk about everything. How did they get so burned out? Can either of them remember something that they used to love? Answer: surfing. And the question they try and fail to ignore: what does the energy between them, flaring even in the face of the bone-deep exhaustion, signify? This book was really good, and I can relate to Sasha because while I'm not burnt out in the same way she is, I often tend to get very burnt out when I have to do a lot of YouTube videos back to back, and Kathleen and I also dealt with burnout last summer when we were reading so many books for the podcast back to back. This book gets 5 stars because of the relatable female character. The next book that I borrowed from the library in the past couple of weeks was Killing Monica by Candace Bushnell. This is by the same author who wrote Sex and the City, which is the show that the HBO series from the 1990s and early 2000s was based on. It stars Sarah Jessica Parker. I also read the book that Candace Bushnell wrote about her process with creating Sex and the City and coming up with Carrie and the rest of the characters and casting the show. And I've also read a book called Sex and the City and Us, which is a nonfiction book about the impact that Sex and the City has had on society by Jennifer Cation Armstrong. This book is a thriller book about a author who is named Pandy Wallace, and she is a writer of a popular series where the characters main name is Monica. I selected this book for Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR because, honestly, the character's first name is Monica. The book is written by the author of Sex and the City, which is another TV show besides Friends that's set in New York. And this is a book about a writer. And as you guys know, I'm a writer. So this is my first book by Candace Bushnell, and I can't wait to read more from her. So in this book, we're introduced to Pandy P.J. Wallace, who is a renowned writer whose novels about a young woman making her way in Manhattan have spawned a series of blockbuster films. After the success of the Monica books and movies, Pandy wants to attempt something different, a historical novel based on her ancestor, Lucy Wallace. But Pandy's publishers and audience only want her to keep cranking out more Monica, as does her greedy husband, Johnny, who's gone deeply into debt to finance his new restaurant in Las Vegas. When her marriage crumbles and the boathouse of her family home in Connecticut goes up in flames, Pandy suddenly realizes she has an opportunity to reinvent herself, but to do so, she will have to reconcile her ex-best friend and former partner in crime, Sandra Beth Schwazner, who plays Monica on the big screen, who may have her own reasons to derail Patty's startling change of plan. In Killing Monica, Candace Bushnell spoofs and skewers her way through pop culture, celebrity worship, fame, and the meaning of identity. With her trademark humor and style, this is Bushnell's sharpest, funniest book to date. I also feel like, similar to Woman Down by Colleen Hoover, Candace Bushnell uses her character, PJ, as sort of a self-insert character to kind of talk about the popularity of Sex in the City, and also the character of Carrie Bradshaw, who's played by Sarah Jessica Parker. I gave this book 4.5 stars. The next book that I've read this month, from the end of last month to the beginning of this month, was Brighter Than Before by Courtney Walsh. This is her new release. I have read every book that she has published ever since I first read The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley in 2024. Oh, actually, I haven't read all of the books that she's written. I have quite a few backlist books to read, but the other books that I have read by her are The Summer of Yes, The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley, and last year's new release, Everything's Coming Up Rosy. So I have quite a bit of work to do on her backlist still, but I have loved all the books I have written by her before. She writes non-spicy romance books, which is perfect for me because I don't really like a lot of spice and sex scenes in my romances. So this book focuses on Claire, who reinvents herself after a divorce, and she's a relatable character to me because she's a list maker, and lists happen to be my favorite thing to make to keep myself organized, so she's similar to me in that way. And I selected this book for Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR because the main character is similar to Chandler because she has commitment phobia, and I gave this book 4.5 stars. The next book I borrowed from the library that I just recently finished is called Instructions for a Heat Wave by Maggie O'Farrell. This is by the same author as Hamnet, and she just recently came out with a new book earlier this spring called Land, which is set in Ireland during the potato famine. This book is set in 2 different places. It's set in New York City and off the coast of Ireland, and it focuses on a girl named Aoife. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Oh, wait a minute. I hate it when tag on the back of the book covers up what the description is, because I can't read you guys the whole Maggie O'Farrell reveals the fault lines over which we build our lives. Instructions for a heat wave weaves an unforgettable narrative of a family falling apart and coming together with hard-won, life-changing truths about who they really are. So this is a family drama, and I love myself a family drama because one of my favorite books is called The Dutch House by Anne Patchett, and I also recently read her new release, Whistler, which I gave 4.5 stars to. I don't have that book here in this room. It's in the bookcase in the bedroom. But I have read Land and The Marriage Portrait previously and Hamnet, obviously, by Maggie O'Farrell, and I love her writing style and how she introduces us to different periods of time we may not be familiar with or learn about in school. Like, for example, in Land, she writes about the Irish potato famine of the 1800s, which I never learned about in school. So I gave this book 4 stars. The next book I recently borrowed from the library that I completed is called Julia Song is Undateable. This is by Susan Lee, who is friends with my favorite booktuber, Carrie from Carrie Can Reads. And this is her adult romance novel. It came out in so this is her new release from last year for adults, and then I also read her YA new release last fall called The Romance Rivalry. She's a really good writer, and this book focuses on Julia, who is a CEO of a company, and the main guy character's name is Tay, and they have basically Julia thinks she's undateable because she doesn't find herself to be very likable to other people, but she finds herself falling in love with Tay, who is the main male character. And I really like their dynamic and their banter. This is only the second book I have read by Susan Lee after reading The Romance Rivalry, so I'm really excited to also read Soulmates and The Name Drop from her. So I will have to get those out of the library when I get home from vacation next week. Okay, so now we're getting into recent books that I'm reading. The next book I recently got from the library is called The Summer Getaway by Susan Mallory. This is my first book by this author. I found this book on the vacation read shelf of the library, and I have read up to page 198. And I should probably finish this book when I get home from vacation. So I'm really excited to finish this off. 2 books that I borrowed from Kathleen and I returned to her earlier this morning were An Infinite Love Story by Chanel Clayton, which is her new release from July 7th. And I gave that 5 stars. This is a book that's similar to Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's set in 1960. It's about space travel, but unlike Atmosphere, it's set in the 1960s during a space race instead of in the 1980s. But if you liked Atmosphere, then you will like An Infinite Love Story just as much. Chanel Clayton also wrote the Cuban Saga series, which I just finished in May. And I really love her writing style and how she creates her characters and develops her relationships. And me and Kathleen both gave An Infinite Love Story 5 stars. And the other book I just returned to her is Life and Other Inconveniences by Kristen Higgins. Kristen Higgins is another author who writes family dynamics really well, like Maggie O'Farrell and Anne Patchett. And Life and Other Inconveniences is set in New England and focuses on Emma, her mother Genevieve, and her daughter Riley, and also her grandmother who gets sick later on in the book. And I connected to Genevieve in those scenes when she's taking care of her sick grandmother because I lost my grandmothers to Alzheimer's in 2014 and 2021, and I was very close to them, and Genevieve has a very close relationship with her grandmother. And I gave Life and Other Inconveniences 4.5 stars. The next book I borrowed from the library is 99% Mine by Sally Thorne. This is by the same author as The Hating Game, which I read from the Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR to describe Chandler. And this book focuses on Darcy and Tom, and I have really loved the development of their relationship and their dynamic. Much like other romance authors that I read, Sally Thorne is really good at writing banter. And so far in this book, I am on chapter 13, page 178. A recent purchase that I made was Letters from the Last Apothecary by Bita Bizzotti. This came out at the beginning of last month on June 9th, and I started it a couple of weeks ago before I left for 4th of July, and I am on chapter 14, page 140. Nestled between skyscrapers and smokestacks, it's one of Trestport's last magical apothecaries, its shelves lined with dried herbs, bottled elixirs, and old magic. When sharp-witted Josephine Pinova is hired to work the shop, she learns she only has 5 months to save the business from closure amid rising anti-magic fervor. Her greatest obstacle may be Alpheus Reed, the infuriatingly uptight apothecariist who seems determined to dislike her. By day, they clash over plant care and customer service. By night, Josie exchanges anonymous letters with the gentle scholar who shares her dream of studying magic at the nearby university, unaware the man she is falling in love with, letter by letter, is Reed himself. As industrial interests and mob pressure close in on the shop, Josie and Reed are forced to discover that working together to save it may be their only chance of true purpose, and at each other. The next book I'm going to be rereading is The Love Goddess's Cooking School by Melissa Sanati. I bought this book at Bull Moose back in May, and when I read it a couple of months ago, I gave it 4 stars. And this book is about Holly Maguire's grandmother, Camilla, was the love goddess of the Blue Crab Island, Maine, a Milanese fortune teller who could predict the right man for and whose Italian cooking was rumored to save marriages. Holly has been waiting years for her unlikely fortune. Her true love will, like a cordula, an unappetizing old world delicacy, but Holly can't make a decent marinara sauce, let alone cordula. Maybe that's why the man she hopes to marry breaks her heart. So when Holly inherits Camilla's cucinara, she's determined to forget about fortunes and love and become an Italian cooking teacher worthy of her grandmother's legacy. But Holly's 4 students are seeking much more than how to make Camilla's chicken a la Milanese. Simon, a single father, hopes to cook his way back into his daughter's heart. Juliet, Holly's childhood friend, hides a painful secret. Tamara, a serial dater, can't find the love that she longs for. And 12-year-old Mia thinks learning to cook will stop her dad Liam from marrying his phony lasagna queen girlfriend. As the class gathers each week, Camilla's essential ingredients of wishes and memories is in every pot and pan. Expected friendships and romances are formed and taste tested, especially when Holly falls hard for Liam. And learns a thing or two about finding her own recipe for happiness. So this book was selected for the TBR because of the episode of Friends where Monica and Joey take a cooking class together. I believe that's in like season 8 or season 9, but I can't remember exactly what season it's in. And as I said, when I read this book last month, or not last month, in May, I gave it 4 stars. The next books are either books that, most of these books are from the library, and then I'm going to do the haul at the end of the stuff that I bought on vacation. The first book that I'm rereading for this week when I go on vacation is Across the Vanishing Sky by Catherine Cowles. This was her new release from March, and the second book in this series just came out last week, so I am rereading this again for Winterween so I can read the next book, because this is an interconnected, standalone, romantic suspense series by the same author as the Sparrow Falls series, which I started reading last year and haven't quite finished yet. I made it to the 3rd book and I still have 3 books left. But Fragile Sanctuary is my favorite book in that series because that main couple describes Chandler and Monica. He spent a lifetime trying to escape his darkest past, but to save her, he'll wade back into the shadows. Brighton Winslow never expected to return to Starlight Grove, the town that took everything away from her. Not after her best friend, the one who sacrificed so much for her, vanished without a trace. But with a young son to raise and a past that won't stay buried, Bray is back and determined to uncover the truth. She just didn't count on the brooding, reclusive mountain man living next door. Dex Archer is the stuff of local legend, silent, rugged, and surrounded by whispers of his and his brother's violent father. But Bray sees through the scowl and the parentage of the man beneath. Fiercely loyal, unexpectedly kind, and just dangerous enough to protect her when someone starts warning her off her search. The closer she gets to the truth, the harder it is to stay away from Dex. And as things get more perilous, Bray realizes that the only person she can rely on is the one man who she swore never to trust again. Only someone that isn't happy that Bray has been digging, and they'll do anything to stop her. But Dex, he'll do anything to save her, even slip back into the dark. I love Catherine Cowles' writing style, and I'm very excited to be rereading this for Winterween for the pastel cover prompt for Carly's readathon. The next book I got from the library that I am rereading is More or Less Maddie by Lisa Genova. I read this book last April, and I picked it up again for Disability Pride Month. This is by the same author who wrote Still Alice, which I finished reading last week and just returned to the library yesterday. So, Still Alice is about a woman, a college professor at Harvard University who gets diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And this book is about a girl named Maddie who has bipolar disorder. And I love how in-depth Lisa Genova went in with her research for this book. I haven't started to reread this book yet, but I'm going to be starting very soon with it, and I'm excited to get back into it. The next book that I am reading from the library is called The Violin Maker's Secret. This is by the same author as The Last Bookshop, which is a mystery book that I read last year. And I'm excited to get into it. This is another book that I'm excited to read more in it. I have so far read up to the end of chapter 11, page 72. The next book I picked up for Winterween, which is Carly's readathon. Carly's channel is called The Pastel Bookshelf, is Willing Prey by Ali Olander, and the blurb on the front is by Nevessa Allen. With high heat and heart-pounding chase scenes, Willing Prey brings new meaning to the term thrill of the hunt. Divorced and buried into a loan debt, Claire Collins eagerly enters a spicy business agreement with an acquaintance who wants to explore his primal desires. The deal is simply 30 days as his sexual prey, $30,000 in her bank account. All she has to do is give Shane Underwood the hunt of his life. Claire's a physical education teacher and perfectly happy to spend her summer having wild, kinky sex instead of her usual serving job. But once they cross the tree line, she realizes how little she knows about the corporate lawyer paying her to be his prey. Shane is different in the woods, brutal, devastating, feral. That's okay with Claire, she is too, and she's sinking her teeth a little deeper into Shane's heart every time she catches him. I am not completely sure I am going to enjoy this book. So far, I have read the first 8 chapters, and I'm on page 64. I'm predicting that if I don't like it, I will probably DNF it. The next book I picked up from the library yesterday is called Audrey Lane Stirs the Pot by Alexis Hall, and this is by I read another book by her, but I can't find a list in this book about her other books. But she writes a lot of historical fiction books. And again, the description is covered up by the barcode, so I can't really read to you what it's about. But I'm very excited to get more into it. I just started this morning, and I'm on page 88. The next book is Nora Roberts' new release, which is called The Final Target. This is a mystery book. I have read I think I have only read one other book by her, which I gave 3 stars to, and it's called The Awakening, which is the first book in the Dragon Heart Legacy. A young author becomes the object of a fan's desire and rage in this gripping new thriller by the #1 best-selling author of Hidden Nature. He showed up at Arden Bowie's debut author appearance with a copy of her novel and an eager smile. He showered her with compliments and got her autograph. Then he came to the next event and the next one after that. Dustin was just an aspiring writer who wanted advice. Arden reassured herself, but after giving in to the incessant invitations and chatting over coffee, she discovered that ignoring her inner alarm bell had been a terrible mistake. An introvert heart, Arden has long craved solitude, but now, after a harrowing assault, she finds herself hiding behind locked doors, startling at every sound. And her relief at Dustin's imprisonment is tempered by anxiety when his wealthy mother helps to get him a paltry 5-year sentence, a partly 5-year sentence at a psychiatric facility. Arden decides to write a new story for herself, moving to a tiny Oregon town and befriending Gideon, an ex-LAPD detective. But while she learns to drive, Dustin remains his delusional, twisted self, as fixated as ever, and now seething with anger. He still believes Arden's purpose on Earth is to serve and please him. And his job is to protect her, but who will protect her from him? I am really, really liking this book so far. I am on page 250, chapter 19, and I will finish this when I get home from vacation at the end of next week. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the haul portion of this video. These are some purchases that I recently made when I went to Meredith and to Connecticut. The first thing I bought is a non-book thing. This is a Gilmore Girls trivia deck and episode guide, which I'm going to bring on vacation with me to Hull. I'm going to pack this in my beach bag. The next book that I purchased in my travels is Rules for the Summer by Megan Quinn. Megan Quinn has been a hit or miss author because some of her characters have not been easy for me to connect to. So besides this book, I have read How My Neighbor Stole Christmas, which was her Christmas release from 2024. I gave that book 5 stars. I gave the sequel to that book, Merry Christmas, You Filthy Animal, 3 stars. And I wasn't a big fan of that one because I didn't find the female character in a romance to be very well developed. Then her summer release from last year, Till Summer Do Us Part, was a 5-star read, and this book was also a 5-star read. So in this book, we focus on Renly and Theo. Renly Gossage has one shot to prove that she's more than Cape Meryl's favorite cautionary tale. Restore her favorite candy shop before the town writes her off like they did her father. No help, no shortcuts, and definitely no rich men wielding engagement rings and making things messy. Theo Williams never planned on ending up in Cape Meryl. A drunken game of truth or dare turned into a botched online engagement, and now he's across the ocean escaping his father's control with nothing but designer shoes, misplaced confidence, and rental next door to Renly. She's practical, stubborn, and covered in paint. His posh, persistent, and willing to use a sander if it means earning her trust. There are some rules we're meant to protect them both, but between collapsing drywall, gossiping neighbors, and the chaotic schemes of Renly's aunt, their forced proximity turns into something dangerously close to real. Except Renly's future depends on standing on her own 2 feet, and Theo's past isn't done with him yet. By the time the candy shop doors open, they'll have to decide if it's just a summer fling or the happily ever after that neither of them saw coming. This book was fantastic. I gave it 5 stars because I love the development of Theo's relationship with Renly and also the summer setting. I read this for Carly's Summerween readathon for the summer setting prompt, and Till Summer Do Us Part for Gabby's readathon, which ended on July 9th, also for the summer setting prompt. So yes, I highly recommend this book. You should definitely read it if you get the chance. This book was selected for the Manhattan to Stars Hollows TBR to go along with the episode The One with All the Candy, which is a holiday episode, but that's focused on Monica making candy for her neighbors, and also the episode at the end of season 4 where they go to the beach to look for Phoebe's birth mom. The next book I recently purchased is the graphic novel of The Haunted Mask by R.L. Stine. So I grew up in the 1990s during the peak popularity of the Goosebumps books. I didn't own any of them, but I remember going to my neighbor's house next door when I lived in Massachusetts and reading them from my neighbor's bookshelf. Besides this book, my favorite book in the series is Smile for the Camera, and my least favorite book is Why Are You Afraid of Bees? I guess the reason why I hate that book so much was because of somebody turning into a bee. And little did I know that I would be allergic to bees in the future, because I read that book when I was 8, and then I found out I was allergic to bees when I was in high school. So in the graphic novelization of The Haunted Mask, I am on page 84. The next purchase that I recently made is called The Friends Books of Lists, The Official Guide to All the Characters, Quotes, and Memorable Moments by Michelle Morgan. So, as the title implies, this is basically a book of lists of all the things that are related to Friends, and in future videos where we analyze characters, I think I'm going to probably reference specific things that I find in here related to the episodes that we're going to be talking about. So the next two character analysis videos that we're going to be doing are about Chandler's effeminate behavior and his homoerotic relationship with Joey, which focuses on mostly episodes from season 3 and season 4 and a couple from the later seasons. And then from Monica's character analysis, we're going to be mostly focusing on her relationship with her mom, and I'm going to backtrack on a discussion I had in my video from March about parent and about age gap relationships when I talk about Richard and Monica, because mostly in that video I focused on the age gap, but then after doing my research for the character analysis video that will be out on August 21st, what I realized was the reason why Monica was so attracted to Richard in the first place was because she got affirmations from Richard that she never got from her parents because they were neglectful. Richard was played by Tom Selleck from Magnum P.I. The other book that I bought is in the other room. I forgot to bring it in, but I will be reading that when I get home from vacation, so that will be in my next reading update video. The last book I'm going to talk about in this video is Women in Science, 50 Fearless Pioneers Who Changed the World. Written and illustrated by Rachel Ignovsky. So I picked this book up at the gift shop at the aquarium, and I'm excited to read it because I love learning about different people in history. Like, for example, the astronauts who are mentioned in the Hidden Figures movie, which Kathleen, Matt, and I will be watching on August 22nd. So let's talk about upcoming videos. So the books that I just talked about today are current reads that I'm doing. Because of all my traveling, the mid-month wrap-up for July has been postponed, and that video will now be coming out on August 3rd. I don't know what time yet because I'm still working out my schedule for that day. But if I have to pre-record it on Sunday, then I will just schedule it for whatever time I was going to post it. And then, as I was mentioning before, I'm going to be doing a character analysis on Chandler's effeminate behavior and his homoerotic relationship with Joey, which will be my special feature for Matthew Perry's birthday as part of my art imitating life section about character analysis of Chandler, although I don't really think any of the episodes mentioned in that video will necessarily relate to Matthew Perry imitating himself as Chandler, but that will be like a bonus part of that series. And then on August 21st, over on Matt's channel, our entertainment wrap-up for July and August will be out, and in that video, we will be covering content from July 11th to August 14th. And a couple of things that will be reviewed in that video will be Princess Kim the Musical, Always Patsy Cline, Holy Unwinding, Toy Story 5, Aquamarine. We'll be talking a little bit more about our vacation, about my cousin's wedding, and the trip to Connecticut. And I will also be doing a reading progress section of that video, and he will also be talking about the book that his mom's cousin wrote, as well as The Berry Pickers by Amanda Peters. And then we will be doing a separate character analysis video about Monica, and I hope by then I will have the response letter from the fan mail I sent to Courtney Cox, because in my letter that I wrote to her, I asked her about her opinions about the fan theories about Monica that we're going to be talking about in the character analysis video, which are Monica and Joey are addicted to drugs. Monica was a guinea pig for weight loss drug testing, and then I also asked her if she got any pushback originally when Friends was airing from other fans about her relationship with Richard. So I'm excited to hear back from her. I sent her the fan mail letter on July 13th, and I should hopefully be hearing back from her soon. So thank you for your patience as I am in the middle of traveling to different places this month, and I will see you guys on August 3rd for my next video. Have a good week next week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.